They're the liberal rednecks. They like cornbread but sex. They care way too much but don't give a fuck. They're the liberal rednecks that makes some people upset, but they got 3 big old dicks that you can suck.
What's shaking, Daddy O's?
Fucking Ronnie Millsap over here.
What you cool cats doing out there today? Yeah,
I think there's a good look for you.
I'm not gonna lie, I like it. I know it's not a choice, but it feels like a heck of a choice.
Yeah, I'm keeping my head down because if I turn it up, see the reflection. So, but the head down kind of adds to it. I definitely look very blind, I think.
Yeah, you do.
So that hurts.
Give me one of these. Give me a. There's a stranger in my house.
I don't want to do that, but I
would say record it when he does that. We'll have that help to hold over his head later.
Well, I've been recording.
He has been recording, so we'll use all this. So everybody knows I had eye surgery again. If you've been following us for a while, you know I had it about 18 months ago. Didn't take. Imagine that. I was one of the roughly
0.2%.
Nah, it's more like it works 80 to 90% of the time. So I had a 10 to 20% chance of it not working, and of course it didn't. So I've had the second round, and that's why I'm wearing the sunglasses. So not just doing a real cool dude beatnik thing or nothing.
You do look like someone who has like been really, really famous for several years and then just came out to do like his first interview in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good look.
Well, I appreciate it.
You look like Corey Feldman.
Corey Feldman?
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
I mean, it don't hit for sure.
Yeah.
It's a little better every day, but it's like feels like having. At first, it feels like having like sharp sand in your eyeballs, like not just sand, but like sharp sand, and then it sort of lessens down to just kind of sand. Your eyes are just kind of like irritated and scratchy and itchy and don't hit, but it's like having your eyes all fucked up sort of fucks the rest of your head up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like having your eyes in a constant strain all day sort of makes your head hurt, and you just. So I mean, I haven't been hitting for sure, but I'm a little better every day. So,
what about vision?
My vision is great. Knock on wood for now. But the thing is, last time I had it, it worked at first. It worked for like a week or two, and then it just sort of clicked off. Mm-hmm. No idea. So I'm still not really out of the woods yet. I could wake up next week and be fucked again, but who knows? Yeah.
Dwayne eyes, Bill teeth. My man's is fucked up. DNA.
Is Drew is he coming in and like is it like doubling?
Yeah, it kind of worked for what he was just doing.
It did.
It felt like it was on purpose, but there is a sort of like some kind of effect going on with Drew's audio.
Is your mic plugged in all the way?
My mic is plugged in all the way, and I've been struggling with my fancy mic and then just using the default one. Is that better?
That I can hear you now, and it's not.
Yeah, I don't know. This
this
fucking Yeti stopped working. I've never dropped it. I've never done anything weird to it. I don't know what the deal is. So I try it every time, and it never works. Anyway, hey, sorry. By the way, Athletic Greens just had some. I don't know if they're our sponsor today, but that is one of the products I definitely use. Thank you, Athletic Greens.
Yeah, it is good, regardless of whether or not they're sponsoring us. So, why did I think you weren't in California, Drew?
Well, I went to a different part of California this weekend, perhaps. That's why you thought that?
Maybe.
I went to a burner adjacent festival with one of my friends who's like a Burning Man guy. And I had no idea if I would like it. I like music festivals, but those festivals aren't the type where they don't even tell you who the music is. So I was like, I don't know about this. It was pretty.
They don't tell anybody.
It's one of those things where did Corey cut out for you, Trae?
No. He started to ask a question, but then he stopped because you.
So
were
you just
talking.
you just go. It's like
technical difficulties all the way around.
So you're saying they just announced the festival and you go, and you don't know who all's going to be there.
I don't think he can hear us. He told us.
I got
just
you
keep
now,
talking.
brother.
Oh,
I got
okay.
you now.
So they announced this festival, and you just know that it's a festival, but they don't announce who's going to be there. It's like
I think
a
people in the
Largo
know,
show.
Yeah, I think the people in the know, and I'm sure at regular Burning Man people know. But I think the idea is not that you go because your favorite music acts are going to be there. I think with this particular festival, you go because your friends are going to be there who you go to Burning Man with, because I was with like 30 people who he all knew. And it's also, some of the art that's going to be there. And I know that sounds weird, but I mean, these are like art installations. It's like immersive shit. It's like 5-story movable ships that have blimps as sails, and there's a DJ in them. And it was really fucking cool. I see why people get into it.
So, is it like affiliated with Burning Man, or it's just like kind of a knockoff, but by people for whom it hits? You know what I mean? Like,
All right, this is
like
going to
we should
require
do
me
more
to
of that type of
explain.
stuff.
This is going to require me to explain things about Burning Man I'm not sure I know, but I think I learned this weekend. Burning Man started as a very like independent, like we're going to go to the desert and party, and we're just going to make it a thing. It evolved over time. There is a ticketing agency involved now, but you apply to have a camp at Burning Man. You can just buy tickets and just go, but to have an official camp that's inside the so you know how Bonnaroo has acts and different stages? Burning Man has camps that have different themes, and there are camps that have been going as a group for years. Those camps will have Burning Man adjacent events in the area they're from. So let's say there's 10 camps that have been going to Burning Man from San Francisco for years. It's probably more than that. I don't know. But those 10 camps might get together and have their own, they call it rogue burn or side burn or some shit like that. That's what this was. So it's official. Like Burning Man is like, we approve. We know these people. This hits. But it's not like, I don't know. It has nothing to do with Burning Man other than these are people who know what Burning Man is and do Burning Man stuff.
Well, let me ask you this. Only just now listening to you talk about it has this ever occurred to me, but I've probably talked on here before, and I know I told y'all the story about, it's been years now, I don't even know, but me and my buddies going to this big ass hippie party that happens up where I'm from every year. It's called the Summer Solstice Party.
Is that where you saw the Native American in the fire?
It was a
Samoan.
It was a Maori, a Samoan. Yeah, I think I hallucinated a Samoan, a like despondent, ennui-stricken Samoan outside of a massive burning effigy.
Your general flat delivery with these sunglasses is fucking crushing.
Yeah, it really amplifies it because he's not doing anything different. It's just that he's finally in the form that matches his personality.
It's like you sounded annoyed that we forgot, even though you weren't.
It's
like glasses on.
Yeah,
it's like, you idiots. It was a Samoan, but smoother than that.
Yeah, it's like when I first started wearing sequence wrestling jackets and aviators. It's like, oh, now the outside matches what he's been the whole time. And yeah, Trey's the very same.
Well, hell yeah! All right. So anyway,
this happened. Do a jazz point about a Samoan in the fire.
This happened. This party has been going on forever. Like, I mean, a long time. I'm pretty sure probably pre-Burning Man, because it's been like Thompson's parents' generation and stuff have been going to this party for forever, right? And it's just a big hippie party out in the woods. It's on this one hippie's big piece of property, right? He walks like a crane. They call him a barefoot farmer because he's always barefoot, and he like hikes his legs up like he's walking through tall grass even when he ain't. Anyway, takes place on his property every year, and all that really happens is a bunch of hippies get out there, get naked, swim in a creek, do drugs, right? There is live music, but it's not like bands you've heard of. It's just like hippies jamming together and stuff. And the main event is this big ass effigy that they burn. You know, everybody gathers around it and they burn it, right? And I'm assuming that that's how that has always worked. So I'm wondering if there are a bunch of those types of hippie parties that have been going on for a long time around the country, and B, if Burning Man is like a, sort of arose from that thing. Like it's a version of that thing that took off and became huge, because it sounds pretty similar, just on a much, much bigger scale.
I think that it is. I think that the thing about Burning Man that made it slightly different than that was, one, it was Gen X. Because when it came about, I think it was late 80s, early 90s, and the people who did it, they were very much Gen Xers, not hippies. So they were probably, like you said, taking from those hippie festivals, but doing it their own way. And it happened there in the Black Rock Desert. It was always associated with the Pacific Northwest and San Francisco scene of that time. I mean, that was sort of the pinnacle of 80s and 90s white people culture. When you got grunge, when you've got Gen X in general, and then you've got the tech world. And I don't mean the current tech bros of like, we got $1 billion, let's invest, venture capital. I mean like nerds who were into fucking LED lights before anybody knew what LED lights were. That all came together there. So yeah, I think you're right. I don't think it was something that was created independent of anything. It definitely was a version of a thing that existed. I just think that it was so specific to that time and era. And then also cameras and early internet made the pictures go viral. And then MTV covered Burning Man when we were in high school. I remember that shit. I remember being like, what the fuck? That's mind blowing. And then that made like Fox cover it when we were kids too. Like, who the fuck are these people doing drugs in the desert? Then Grover Norquist went because he had this whole like right wing, like, well, they go to the desert, they don't exchange money.
Anti-tax. He's the tax pledge guy.
Yes, and these
what a name.
And libertarians have always liked Burning Man as a I don't know, an idea of how things could be because there's no rules there or whatever. But
anarchy.
It's anarchy, but it's anarchy in the sense of like, but you're supposed to help each other out. You know, there's no cops, but if you see somebody punching somebody, you know, you arrest them kind of thing. So anyway, I think all that swirled together to make Burning Man huge. But you are correct that it is the progeny of hippie parties, but it's not hippies. It's like, it's burners. They're like their own thing.
Y'all ever been at something like that and had a vibe clash? Because when we were at that party,
had to stay in a van for 3 hours.
We were all was on mushrooms, and we was like at our campsite hitting or whatever. The effigy wasn't until later, and it's nighttime though, and somebody's like, hey, we should go check out the acoustic stage. And I had walked by the acoustic stage, and I told them, I was like, that is a terrible idea, because the acoustic stage is people on blankets, stoned out of their mind, whatever. Somebody's up there plucking a guitar, just noodling around or whatever. And it's very, very chill. And we are fucking out of our gourds right now. So we probably ought not go over there. But someone were like, no, let's go check it out. Right. So we go over there and just ruin everyone's night by screaming the entire time about absolute nonsense. Me and Charles started doing this bit that's barely even a bit where somehow we got, yeah, you know Charles.
Oh, okay.
We got on this thing where we were like talking about a bear who worked in an office building. So it was like a big, like a grizzly bear who wore like a button-up shirt and tie up top and carried a briefcase and a coffee cup, but didn't have no pants on, right? And worked in an office building. So we would just like walk around and like pretend to open a door and ask Jan about her TPS reports or something. Mm-hmm. But like as a bear with no pants on, right? And that was the whole thing. And we kept doing different versions of that, which really all we're doing is just saying office stuff. Because it's not, we weren't doing like a bear voice.
Right.
It's just like, hey, picture me as a bear.
As a bear, yeah.
But we were both doing that. And like we were fucking crying, like screaming, laughing about this thing that doesn't make sense to anybody else. And I know I've told y'all this story before, but then at one point, this dude, this hippie guy sort of appears out of nowhere with a cello, right? And he gets in the middle of the crowd at the acoustic stage and starts playing this cello in a super, super like mournful, like really haunting, mournful cello action that everybody's just enraptured by. And he does this whole thing and then finally stops and everybody's like politely clapping like, well, that was incredible, you know, whatever. And then I literally jumped in the middle of everybody and yelled, God damn, boys, I didn't know the king died. And it hit real hard for like Thompson and Charles, and super did not hit for you know Charles, but it did not hit for everyone else. And you know, we still had a good time, but it was just you know, you got to watch it in those scenarios because people are not all on the same wavelength all the time. If you get with people that are on the same page as you, it's fucking awesome. But when you mix and match, sometimes, you know, evenings can be ruined.
I had a vibe clash this weekend.
Hang on. Won't you tell us about it right after this? Hit it.
All right. Well, the first vibe clash I ever had in terms of what you're talking about, this is a quick one. Me and Teets were on mushrooms at Bonnaroo, and we were seeing everybody like they were on TV, and we were doing a nature documentary about them all fucking. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, we were 2 feet from them, just screaming about them to
like
them.
doing the whose line is it anyway, like narration thing over them.
Yeah. Look at him across the frozen, or the sunny Serengeti of Bonnaroo. Her ass is plump in the cloud pants. They're 2 feet from us. People thought we were on drugs that we weren't on because we were screaming, because I guess you don't scream a lot on mushrooms. So I've definitely had to, maybe that's where the vibe check comes from. This weekend, me and a guy named Dave were on a little bit of acid, and we were about to watch a derby hat competition because it was the day of the derby. And so they were doing a hat competition, and people know what Burning Man is. Burners had some fucking wild, elaborate hats. Like, people had been planning for this hat competition for a while. Well, me and him he's from the Bay. We were arguing about Draymond and Ja just giving each other shit. This was before they beat us 2 games in a row. Mm-hmm. And just having us a time, just making each other laugh, giving each other shit, and like being pretty, inappropriate about injuries and basketball and things none of those people cared about before it started. So we were already getting on people's nerves, and then it started, and we just started roasting the contestants. And then when someone was good, me and him would argue over who discovered her. That was our bit, over who owned the rights to this talent. There was a little girl on there, and he was like, I discovered her when she was 8. I was like, I found her when she was 6. And then he was like, I was fucking her mom when she was 4. And I was like, well, I'm her fucking dad. And people hated that bit. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you that right now. But when people tried to like shush us because it got, started going too far, and we had done it for like 5 straight contestants or however much it was. The thing is, the people who put on the hat competition were the In a Pro Pirates, which was the group he was in.
In a Pro Pirates.
So he just was like, he wasn't even incensed. He was just like, look, you see that guy up there with the microphone, like, I'm not going to be quiet. This is my event. I discovered these people. I mean, he kept in that character. Without me, there is no hat competition, And that was a lot of fun. We got vibe checked, and we just didn't honor it at all.
I had a vibe. Yeah, I had a good one. And it also...
I figured you did.
This is a two-parter from the same night. And also acid, me and a couple of people had gone to this event called Wild in the Woods. Y'all may have heard of it. It's from about 35 minutes up from where I live, but it's a huge ass thing, and it's close to the Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia kind of, little tri-state border there. And so we were all like, all right, hell yeah, we're going to go. We're going to take some acid. This is going to be a good time. We got a couple of our buddies' dads was driving us, and they'd like taken the seats out of their like SUVs, and we were going to like use them as like theater seating, to see this concert and shit. So the first thing happens when me and my buddy Ethan had taken probably more acid than anybody, because he's a fucking idiot and I'm a one-upper / idiot. So I was like, well, if you take that, I'll take this. So we're sitting there, and the band is playing, and I can't even remember this motherfucker's name to say it out loud, but there was this band, and we knew the dude that was the lead singer, and he didn't really hit for us that much. And he's on stage, and he's one of those that like, they're not horrible, but you can just tell he thinks he hits way harder than he actually does. And he's in his like 40s, but he's still trying to be like Luke Bryan-y, you know what I mean? Like sexy.
So it was like a country situation.
They're country rock. They played Marshall Tucker and all. I didn't mean they were playing Luke Bryan songs. They were doing like Marshall Tucker and Skinner stuff, but you could tell that he was just like, man, I'm really hitting for these girls in this fucking cutoff t-shirt. Yeah. So me and Ethan are sitting there on acid looking at each other, just kind of doing what Drew was saying. Like, we were doing commentary over this and just making fun of him and just shitting on him so hardcore. And I mean, like, really going in. And we're sitting there face to face with each other. And about 2 seconds later, someone is just in the middle of us. And we look up, and it's him with his he had one of those like wireless amp situations so that he could go out into the crowd and shred on people's face, and he's just in the middle of us just going And we're just like, what the fuck? Is this real? Holy shit. So me and Ethan got so goddamn freaked out that we had to go get in his van, like his little mama soccer van thing. And we sat in there for 2.5 hours just smoking weed because the enemies were outside and we couldn't be out there. And that was a world we didn't belong in. So we finally calmed down, / the acid trip was like winding down a little bit. And we get outside and all of our buddies who had been taking acid with us and also drinking moonshine were out there. And I walk up and my buddy Sandy, who had literally drank an entire mason jar full of moonshine by himself. And even us fucked up on acid the whole time we're going, Sandy, there ain't no reason. Like, we're on acid. Like, that's not even do it. Like, you're going to die. Well, he's over there and he'd been laying down for a while. And one of my buddy's dads, I just hear him go, oh my God. Oh my God. And I come over there and go, what? And he goes, dude, Sandy's dead. And I'm like, fucking what? And he goes, he's blue. He's cold. And sure enough, Sandy's laying there not breathing. And everybody's freaking the fuck out. And one of my buddies goes, Corey, you were a lifeguard. And I was like, oh, fuck. But I'm on acid and like, you know, kind of drunk and high. And like, I'd forgotten all my training. So I just slapped him across the face as hard as I could. And this motherfucker went, Aah! And just woke the fuck up. And then we all left and went to Waffle House. But it was freaky.
That's the best vibe check I've heard of, where he's like, hey, man, his vibes are off. Will you slap him and bring him back to life? Because dead is the wrong vibe right now.
I know what else to do.
It's very Cho that he like Fonzied one of his idiot friends back to life. You know what I mean? One of his redneck buddies almost moonshined himself to death, and Cho just slapped him across the face, and that worked. That's very
What's
on
extra
brand.
funny, too, is if we heard his friend's version of that story, either he just underplayed it, he actually did CPR, was like directing people, but he don't remember it. He played the guitar like he always does and claims he doesn't know how. Like you know what I mean? He like literally brought the dude back to life with paddles he made from an electric battery and two pieces of metal. Or Sandy wasn't even blue. Right. He was just hanging out. Corey
he was just drooling a little bit because he was a little too drunk or something, just sitting there, and then got the shit slapped out of him by Cho before they went to Waffle House. I agree with you.
Any of those things are within the realm of possibility. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, I got to tell one more story, or try to, from the weekend before we move on. Because every time you talk to people who go, even to Bonnaroo, and Trae, I know you've experienced this, and Corey too, it's like you try to get people to go, and they're like, I don't know, it's hot, it's gross, this and that. And you're like, it is, but like, you don't care after a certain amount of time, or look, you just got to go. I don't know how to say it to you. It just hits for 3 straight days. It's a straight up, good feeling dump into your brain, and then you feel like shit for a week. It's the same way with Burning Man, but it's even harder for me to connect to the stories because they're not talking about their favorite bands. They say things like, you just have all the ideas of society cast off of you, and you can become a new person. And I'm like, I don't know, I like myself. I don't know what this I can't connect with this at all. And then, like on the first or second night, I don't remember one. So all the tents or camps have like a theme and a thing they do. This one I went into, it was a bar, quote unquote. It was called Bartender. But someone gets behind the bar, and there's all these little trinkets out. And some of them are really like cool necklaces, like the kind Andy wears. And some of them are just very basic. And you spin a wheel, and it tells you what you got to do in order to get a prize. And it could be tell a story, tell a love story, tell a joke, et cetera, et cetera. And then whoever's the bartender decides if you get a prize. And your story has to be as good as the gift you pick. So if you pick one of the better ones, you got to give a real good story, right? Well, we went in there not knowing what it was. We're reading all of this, and somebody was like, Drew, get behind the bar. And it was just us and our friends, and people started telling me stories. But then a crowd gathered. So for like an hour and a half, I just heard people's stories and jokes and decided if they got a prize. And I have to tell you, I cannot explain it to you, but it was one of the absolute coolest experiences of my life. And then I left my drink in there. When we left, I went back to get it. There was a couple in there by themselves. They didn't know what they were doing. I explained it to them, and I was like, I'll be your bartender. This is what you got to do. She wrote something. She told me a little cute thing. I let her have her sticker. The guy wrote love story. I was like, tell me a love story. He's like, I don't know any. I was like, have you ever been in love? He's like, yeah, it's not a good story. I'm like, all right. And she's like, oh, tell him about that movie we watched. I'm like, look, you can't just tell me the plot of a movie. Like, you can, but I'm not going to give you the prize. Like, that's not how it works. I was like, have you really not ever been in love? And he goes, I have, but it ended badly. And then he goes, well, that's not really the only time I've ever been in love. There was this other time with this girl. We met at a festival, and I don't really remember it. But then we met at another festival, and she was like, I met you at this last festival, and I guess I'd been on drugs, but she seemed really cool, so we started hanging out, and we've been together like 6 or 7 months now, and I'm fucking falling in love with her. I look over, the girl's crying.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, oh, my God, I love you, too. And I was like, here's your fucking
that's
prize.
crazy.
I'm leaving. I come out, I'm on drugs, tears in my eyes. My friends have been waiting on me because I just went in there to get my beer. They're like, what took you so long? And I'm like, I think I just changed 2 people's lives forever. I don't know. So it was genuinely very cool.
Was there anybody during this whole experience that you had to be objective and be like, that story didn't hit, you don't get the necklace?
I was just about to say, like, imagine totally bombing in that scenario. You know what I mean? Like having something you think is going to hit, but then it just don't play for nobody. Like that, how much
3
that would
people.
suck.
3
You
people.
didn't give 3 people their shit?
One didn't really try.
You know, Drew wasn't doing nobody
No,
any
I know.
favors, dog.
I
Like
know.
he was being
Listen.
objective.
It was 8 out of
impartial.
11 got something. One didn't really try. The other 2 picked objectively the coolest thing there. So they had to live up to it. One guy came very close. He got tell me a secret. And he was there with his buddy, who was the guy who didn't try, who failed. And his buddy walked off for a second to like go talk to somebody. Probably be like, this guy wouldn't give me the grand prize. They were having a good time. He wrote tell me a secret. I was like, you got to tell me a secret. You pick the best prize. This has to be a good secret. And he was like, all right, my secret is I really want to lick his asshole. And I was like, what? Okay, that's funny, but like, what do you mean? He goes, all right, for real, like, I'm here with a girl. He's here with a girl. That's one of my best friends, but I'm in love with him.
Oh my God.
And I was like, you have feelings for the guy who was just up here? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, for real? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, he's starting to come back here. Do we need to shut it down? He goes, I don't know. I don't know if we should talk about it or not. I started asking him questions. Long story short, and they were bro dudes, and I kind of had the feeling he was lying. He had made that up. And I gave him a different prize for making up a phenomenal lie because he kept going with it. But it started to fall apart, not just in terms of how good the lie was. His character changed. He got more and more bro-y as the story went on.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Y'all ain't in love.
Yeah, right.
And then the other person I denied was my wife, Andy.
This is great. Please
she picked
do
that
go
same
on.
exact necklace because, of course, she did. It was very cool. It was a crystal that was square and it had wood on it, and it was very beautiful and it was very her. And she wrote "Tell a joke."
Oh,
and
yeah.
She started to tell the joke, and then she couldn't remember it.
Oh no.
I don't know what the joke was. She couldn't remember the joke.
Oh.
She was a little, on D-rugs, and I was like, and there were
that
people
hurts.
around, and I was like, I'm a man of integrity, Andy, and there's people watching. I'm not giving you this fucking necklace.
I don't know who this woman is, but she's not getting a necklace. That would have been what I did.
Did she do that thing where she's like, okay, so 2 rabbits and a fox walk into a bar. Wait, no, it was 2 foxes and a no, it was a fox, a possum, and a rabbit. I can't remember what the fox was wearing. It doesn't matter.
That's Amber.
Like that version of fucking a joke up, or was she just I
close
got
to
one.
that.
Wait, no, I don't.
It was close to that. It was a version of that, and I can't tell if this is better or worse. It was more like a fox, a possum, and a rabbit walk into the bar. When they get into the bar, the bartender sees them and is like, you have to line up from biggest to smallest. Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Oh, no, I remember the punchline, but I don't remember how to get there.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like, and I can't remember how they like, but anyway, it turns out the possum gets his dick sucked or something. Anyway, it's super funny.
She knew not to just do that. She just cut herself off, but
no,
she blew it. And I was like,
that don't
you're
hit.
not getting it. Like, you picked objectively the best necklace here, and I'm not giving it to you.
No, you can't in that scenario. At least it was like something that no one could fault you for. You know what I mean? Like if she had told a joke that was like just okay, but she did it right, and you were like, no, that ain't it. it would have been a very different, scenario. But you had a rock solid case. I had two things that Corey made me think of a minute ago, sort of on the same subject. You're talking about the band that you were watching there, and like how that you could tell they thought they were hot shit. Working at
Nice.
I used to work at Crawdaddy's in Cookeville, and working at a place that has live music, you see those,
All the
especially in a
time.
place like Cookeville, Tennessee.
Almost exclusively them.
You see those types of bands all the time, and a lot of them who are not that way and are super cool and everything. But yeah, but one of them was so like that it actually circled back to hitting for me. I don't remember what they were called, but they were like, they also played like Skynyrd and classic rock covers, and they were these like 53-year-old dudes, like dads, right? Who like, and the lead singer had long hair, and he would bring his own like industrial sized fan as part of the setup. And
he would blow on him.
He would put the fan in front of the stage facing him.
Yeah.
And then unbutton his button up shirt.
That's what's up.
And hike his fucking, his, booted leg up onto the fan while doing a solo or something. So the fan's blowing his hair and his shirt back, but he's got like a 53-year-old dad bod, and they're not exactly crushing it.
Were they
he's really
air
feeling
metal
himself.
looking though? Were they like leopard print? Was it like almost ironic, or did
that sounds self-aware?
It wasn't. Just dress like dad bands.
They dressed like it. Definitely wasn't like leopard print glam metal type.
Could they
stuff,
wear the jeans they wore to Waffle House and not be noticed?
Yeah, and my recollection.
Fuck
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
You gotta have on leather pants if you're doing the fan.
I agree.
But it was, I know, but anyway, so yeah, that type of shit always cracked me up. But and the other thing I was going to say, a Bonnaroo story that I may have told before, I can't remember, about me freaking out, although temporarily. We were standing in the middle of the field at the what stage, the main stage. Tenacious D was going to start soon, and to my left and at my feet, there was a group of people sitting down, and I hear them start kind of like being alarmed. So I look down, and one of them is clearly having a seizure on the ground, right? Seizing up. And another one of them is leaned over the person having a seizure, like with their hands on their shoulders or something, like, trying to like, come on, that type of thing. Leaned over them. And I'm standing above all of this. And then the person who was leaned over the one having the seizure stopped, looked up straight into my eyes, rolled their eyes back into their head, and started having a seizure.
Oh my God.
And I was really high.
Like a sympathy seizure?
And so I swear to God, nonsensical it is, for a second, I was like, we're about to all have seizures. Like I thought some kind of biological weapon had gone off or something.
Why wouldn't you think that?
It felt like the opening scene of a movie or something to me, where it's like now it's just a cascading effect of everybody having seizures. And I was like, I'm next.
Yeah, right.
And it scared
because you looked into her eyes.
Yeah, and it scared the fucking shit out of me. But then, some like a security or whatever, the health and welfare people they have there, ran up and grabbed them and took them off, and they might have died. I don't know. I stayed in Tenacious D rocked, and everything was fine after that. But that just reminded me of the time. Told this one too, but it hit, so why not? When the three of us did mushrooms in San Francisco, and in a hotel room, we ended up like going out and about, had a show that night, but we took them originally in a hotel room and watched the end of a Titans game, and y'all got in the shower together and all this stuff.
Because that's the drug for hanging out with your buddies and watching a ball game.
Right. Yeah, mushrooms. But then before we left the hotel, it took us like an hour and a half to leave the hotel because we kept going to each one of our rooms because we kept forgetting stuff or whatever else. And I don't remember whose room we were in, but we were in one of the rooms, and it's only on like the second or third floor up from the street. And the way I remember it, y'all were standing there looking out the window at the people on the street, just like people watching. And I walk up in between you. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh, just checking people out. And then Corey goes, check out fucking Kim Jong-un over here. And there was this dude who, I know it sounds racist, I swear to God, he looked exactly like Kim Jong-un in a black trench coat, and everything, standing at a bus stop. Corey goes, check out Kim Jong-un over here. We all look at the guy, start laughing, and then the guy stops, lifts his head up, and stares right at us from the street into the window where we're standing. And I completely lost my mind. I was like, that ain't it. That don't hit. What the fuck was that? And I started like screaming and freaking the fuck out. But I've thought about it since, and like,
Which made it not hit for me.
He probably could see us, right? Like, it's funny. It's funny to picture it from his perspective. Like, out of the corner of his eye, he's like, I think there's some dude staring at me out of that window across the street. And then he looks up and sees that there are, in fact, some dudes staring at him. And those dudes then start screaming and pulling the curtains over and all this stuff and freaking out while he's just standing there.
He's like, God damn it. Somebody thought I was Kim Jong-un again.
But it's just,
call me being Asian. God damn it.
Because like I said, we weren't that far up off the street or anything.
No.
And the curtains were open, and I feel like he probably could see us, which makes it.
Right at us.
It makes it that makes it way funnier to me thinking about it from his perspective.
And he couldn't, but that's what it felt like. It felt like he saw and heard us.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, see, in my head, right. In my head at the time, it was like it seemed mystical or something because I was like
Morpheus.
Because I was like, there's no way he could possibly see us from all the way over there or whatever. But he probably just saw us out of the corner of his eye and then looked to, confirm that he was being stared at, which he was. And nothing really that weird happened, but it freaked me completely the fuck out. But then we rallied after that, went to that bar where Patrice O'Neal type was sitting on the stoop.
Yeah,
just
roasting everybody
that walked by. That was rad.
One more vibe clash. I wasn't on drugs other than I might have been stoned. This was probably my third Bonnaroo, second. And it was when like bros and sorority girls just started to come. Like there was a time when festivals were only for
the hippies.
The
was
hippies
that the Kings of Leon year?
Rollers. No, it was
that would explain it.
In my recollection, there was a whole lot of talk the Kings of Leon year about it being about a whole lot more bro type showing up that year than the previous years, and then it never really went back after that.
So I think it was the one after or whatever. So yeah, I might have been off by a little bit, but so there was a group of what we would now just call festival girls because they get on Instagram. Instagram changed a lot of it. Apparently the burners call them sparkle ponies, where they spend literally $8,000 to go to Burning Man and make sure that they have like basically a house the whole time where they're there. Mm-hmm. And like they talk about how like if your makeup is perfect at 4 PM, you've spent a lot of money because there's nowhere to do your makeup and keep it perfect if you haven't done all that. But anyway, it was a group of those types of girls. And this fucking hippie walked through right in front of all of us in almost like a Congo line, but it wasn't a Congo line. It was just a line of people who they had to go single file to get through the crowd, to get to where they wanted to go. And he had probably a 18-inch double-ended brown dildo over his shoulder.
Wait a minute. Hold on, buddy. Me? Dude, unless this happened to you twice, keep going, and then I'll tell my version of this same story.
Were you with me? Was this the year I went with you? That would be my first time.
Me and you, I know, were together at specifically Portugal the Man. It was Portugal the Man at the Witch stage. I know because I was on more drugs at one time than I'd ever been at any Bonnaroo before or since. And I came this close to freaking the fuck out. And the only reason I didn't is because the dude with the 18-inch brown double-ended dildo showed up in front of us and started dancing around and bouncing it all over the place. And that brought me, I just started giggling because it was so funny. And that dude, I swear to God, saved my fucking life because I was this close, dude. I was this close to the precipice of having done way too much. But that guy, he saved me. I think about that guy all the time.
I bet you do.
So that was my second Bonnaroo. So that was the second one I went to. They congoed. They stopped right in front of us. And I do remember, Portugal the Man. You were there. Okay. To our
that
right,
show rocked, too.
So
once I didn't freak out, it was fucking awesome.
To our right were a bunch of college girls. And it was just so funny to watch them react to an old hippie with a brown dildo. Because they had never seen it. It was clear that that in public was so strange to them. And I remember it being funny to me because I'm thinking, wait till tonight, ladies. Like, this dude won't have any pants on, and he'll be running around with that thing. But also what was funny was, like, they were like, oh my God. And then once one of them was like, look at that. The rest of them, groupthink, had to do it. And then a couple kept looking at him, kept watching him, start dancing the way he's dancing. And it was funny to watch these 18-year-olds start to realize, like, I think the hippie with the brown dildo is way cooler than my fucking friends.
Hell yeah, he is.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
yeah. I mean, he's cooler than all of us. He saved Trae's life.
He did. He genuinely did. And I know I've told this before too, but again, I don't give a shit. The only time I ever saw, well, actually, there was 2 times. One of them involved my party, but the only time I ever saw, Bonnaroo's all fucking peace and love and hippie type shit. If that's what you're trying to do there, which we always were. The only time I ever saw any kind of animosity or violence the first few years I went was I saw this dude getting drug away by security, and they dragged him right by us. I don't know what had happened. He had almost gotten into a fight or something, but they were just dragging this guy away. And as they dragged him right by us, he screamed out, "Oh yeah, yeah, well, fish fucking sucks." And I think about that guy all the time too, because it fucking killed me.
I thought of that. Because you've told me that story a bunch. I literally thought of that story today because Tyler Mahan Co. was posting a promo for his podcast, Your Favorite Band Sucks, and he was doing like a week by week, and next week is Fish Sucks.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and in my mind, I go, Fish fucking sucks. And I was like, what is that? And then I was like, oh, yeah, that's that Trae shit.
Dude, we fell out laughing. The other time was super weird, but like I don't know if it'll play. And trying to tell it, me and some of my buddies, including this guy Jeremy, who Jeremy is generally speaking not the one with whom to fuck. Like Jeremy's not at all an asshole, but he will fuck your shit up if you so desire.
Your shit needs to be fucked up.
Exactly. Yeah. And he was part of the group we were with, and his girlfriend was too. And out of nowhere, this dude, this fucking little weirdo, he looked like kind of tech bro-y, I thought, but he had gigantic shark eyes. He was on something clearly. Walked up straight to Jeremy's girlfriend and got like this close to her face and was just like staring her down, and then started like encircling her and stuff. Like he was trying
like
to
be
a shark, like a shark or something. And Jeremy immediately was just like, what the fuck? And he's like telling her to back off and stuff. And I was only worried because I was like, I think Jeremy might be about to murder a guy in the middle of this field, because he was like just a little, like I said, tech bro-y looking dude. And Jeremy's a pretty bad motherfucker. So I was pretty concerned just because of that. But then the dude, like, as we're all like yelling, trying to figure out what the fuck's going on, he like just did another lap and then just sharked off to go, fuck with somebody else, presumably. But you run into some weird shit down there.
A girl ran up to me once at Bonnaroo and was staring at my chest and got like really close to it and poked it, and then freaked out, and then saw Andy and lit up and hugged her and was happy. But it was like a very strange thing. Another quick one, that same time Teacher and I were on mushrooms or acid, or it was mushrooms. When we were coming down, I remember the sun came up and all these people, a lot of people dressed like animals. They put on squirrel hats, And I remember
I was with you for this.
Seeing this is the first time me and Teach did
okay.
it. But mine and your story rules. That was a very happy story. But I remember seeing those people and loving it. That probably got us started on the Serengeti bit, in fact. Seeing people dressed like animals, talking about them fucking in the wild and all that. Then the sun comes up and the acid's wearing off, but I'm still fucked up. And it was just such a stark difference of like, look at that guy dressed like this. Look at that guy dressed like that. Happy, happy, happy. Sun comes up and I see a guy dressed as a squirrel crawling out of a porta potty with puke all over him.
Right.
And it all hit me all at once that this had been a facade. That was the word in my mind, of happiness.
Dude.
And the humanity of what this really is.
Right.
It's just a bunch of fucking sad people doing fucking drugs, and I'm one of them. And I about fucking lost it. He had to drag me out of there.
I feel like anybody that goes to Bonnaroo enough times will have that exact experience. You see someone you saw the night before the next morning, and it sheds a whole different light, no pun intended, on them and on the whole situation. And and I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories, this dude woke up or like came to, he was like laying on his back on acid, and someone at the Super Jam was covering Biggie Smalls. And when Biggie hit, the dude jumped up and he was going. If you're not watching on YouTube, I'm exerting that this dude was looking around for anyone to confirm to him what his acid brain was telling him,
Biggie's
which is
back
that
from the
Biggie
dead.
Small was there.
Yeah.
And he's going, but like,
Right.
huh, but like, huh, oh my fucking God. And it was the best day of his life. That was the best moment of that dude's life. I don't know when he realized that it wasn't real, but for at least 30 seconds, that man thought Biggie came back from the dead and was there with him.
We'll be
Hell
right
yeah.
back. We'll be right back after this.
Mm-hmm. So I had a one thing I wanted to run by y'all this week. I might as well do it now, I guess. Been watching the NBA playoffs. Memphis Grizzlies been pissing me off, especially Dylan Brooks. We ain't got to get into all that, but been watching the NBA playoffs, and something occurred to me. Like when everybody's a sports fan goes through this thing where eventually you're older than the guys coming into the league and all this
and
stuff.
some of the coaches.
And I can remember being younger and being the same age as like draft picks and stuff like that. And I can remember the guys who were older in the league at that time and being like, man, like the guys that were 37, 38, whatever, that were still playing. And I can remember being like, dude, it is insane that someone so fucking old
Yeah.
could possibly be out there still playing this game. Like he's almost 40, dude. That's old as fuck. Right? That's crazy. And I thought the other night, now that I myself am 36,
Still
I look
feel
at
that
those
way.
guys and I'm way more impressed.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
fuck all that shit, bro.
Yeah.
Like now that I know what it feels like to actually be 36, and of course
It's
there's a huge
crazier.
difference between me and a professional athlete, but still, now that
That's the point.
now that I live it every day,
Yeah.
I'm even more impressed by those dudes because it's like, bro, there's such a, I don't care if you are a pro athlete and training every day, there's still such a colossal difference between a fucking 23-year-old body and a 37, 38-year-old body. I don't care what you do to it, like.
So
it's wild.
I'm actually I'm 100% in better shape right now than I was when I was 23, but only because as soon as I turned 21, that was my first fat,
Yeah, that's when you really went off the rails.
That's when I really went off the rails. So I'm
that's like the last time I hit.
Yeah, I'm inarguably in better shape now, but my recovery back then was still better.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because I work out 3 times a week. I go on long, heart healthy walks through the woods. I don't drink near as much as I used to. I'm eating a lot better. That said, my knee, I literally tweaked my knee yesterday, sitting cross-legged too long reading a book.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like with my leg up and I put it down and my knee had just I tweaked I don't understand how LeBron and these motherfuckers, because I know they're insane shape, but you can hurt yourself being in shape.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of people hurt themselves working out.
That's part of the freakness of these folks. I mean, you look back, there's so many forgotten names of people who were rated as highly as they were, who got injured. There's people who made it in the league for a few years and got injured, like Derrick Rose. So the greats who have longevity, Grant Hill comes to mind. Grant Hill's rookie year literally is on par with Michael Jordan's. Grant Hill's splits and numbers were on par with Michael Jordan's. And he didn't have the longevity, or
Vince Carter just retired.
Yeah, he's like the opposite of that. So that's part of when you have a league like the NBA that pays so much, so you get all these freak athletes working their whole lives toward it. That's like one of the last separators. It's funny you had that thought because I had the same one when Chris Paul's 37th birthday was this week, Trey.
It's actually Chris Paul is the person that made me think this because he had his birthday. He didn't hit his 2 games after his birthday, and that's where this thought came from was Chris Paul turning 37.
So he turned 37. I am 37, but I'm a few months older than him, 6 or 7. And I was like, "Fuck, I'm older than Chris Paul." I didn't know how. I don't know how old I thought Chris Paul was. It was just like a strange thing to be like, "Man, I'm older than Chris Paul. We're close to the same age." I play basketball still, not in the NBA or anything remotely close to that. But
no, you get stabbed almost by people in your league.
Right. I have a knot in my leg and in my lower back, both of which have come and gone multiple times in the last 7 months. I'm very close to just being like, I got to start swimming or something to stay in shape. Now, again, law school, I sat on my ass for 3 straight years. We don't have the doctors these people have. There's factors like that, but there's also just them being so different.
Yeah, they
Then,
different.
dude, even where I play, obviously it's not an NBA season, but there's like a 40-year-old guy who nobody can keep up with. He's a freak in that way, in the longevity way. And I talked to him about it, and part of his theory is he's like, well, I didn't really play competitively in high school. Like, I didn't really get that into doing anything other than pick up every once in a while until I was 25. But still, I guess what I'm getting at is there's the athletic freakness of being able to jump or being fast or being strong. There's another added thing of like longevity. I mean, I'll never forget when Adrian Peterson did blow his knee out for the first time in his life, and the doctor said, I predict he's going to have the quickest recovery time in history because I've never seen an inside of a knee look like that on anyone under the age of 14.
It
just looked so unreal in there.
He came back, rushed for over 2,000 yards, and was the last non-quarterback to win the MVP the following year after blowing his knee out.
Right.
Pretty wild.
That's a additional freak aspect to these professional athletes. And again, that not just being a good athlete, that it's not like they all have it. Like Derrick Rose didn't have it. He could not recover completely. He recovered somewhat. Grant Hill didn't have it. He couldn't recover at all.
And sometimes, and I can't think of a good example, but I feel like it actually happens all the time. There's plenty of guys who like don't even have a major injury. They just sort of hit a wall. They just hit a certain age, and they just get old all of a sudden, and then they're just not, as they lose a step. You're a wide receiver or a cornerback or something. You lose one step, you're pretty much done after that. But yeah, it's just like I used to, when I was in my early 20s, I used to look at the pro athletes in their late 30s and think that they were old as fuck. And now that I'm in my late 30s, I look at them and I know that they old as fuck.
Right. Exactly.
Well, and I hate to give him any flowers, as you guys know, but then that circles back to Brady, man. It's kind of crazy what he's been able to do.
It's unreal.
There's a lineman that's even older than him that's kept it going. And some people go, well, those are different muscles or whatever. It's not twitch muscles. It's like
homeboy from the Rams.
Yeah.
He just retired.
And you can keep strength going longer than you can speed, but you can't. But endurance or durability is hard to keep going. Like it wouldn't surprise me to learn that 45-year-old former NFL linemen are just as strong, if not stronger, than they were in their 30s. But like being able to take punishment and not have to quit at that age is wild.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's nuts. But Brady, too, it's not just that he's still there. It's the level at which he's playing, too. Like, there's that stat on Brady that if you took his career and cut it into thirds, each one of those three careers is a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah, one thing I'll say about Brady, and Chris Paul's the only analogy I can currently think of, maybe LeBron, is that his skill level is so broad. It helps him. Brady cannot throw the ball like he used to. He still throws it very well, but he can do so many other things. Chris Paul is not as explosive as he used to be, but
they're both real smart. They're both very cerebral. They got a high football or basketball IQ.
Well, that's why Peyton was able to do it after his arm went to shit.
Right. They're also both, and this applies to Peyton, in positions to where their brain has a huge effect on the way the game goes, and then that's how they do it. You take a player like Derrick Rose. Rose was explosive. That was his thing. So it's not like he went away and he couldn't play ball anymore. It's just that it took away the thing that made him Derrick Rose.
Made him what he was,
You can't take away Chris Paul's thing. I mean, I'm sure eventually age will take away all the other stuff, but you can't take away the fact that he can shoot and is smarter than everybody.
I think what happens with those dudes is like the game passes them by or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
With Michael, he couldn't do, even though, like, eventually you get to an age where, like, you can't stay in front of anybody on defense. You can't get to your spots. Like, how to get to spots better than everybody. It's like Michael stopped dunking on people and was still good. But then eventually, even the things he was doing, like the fadeaways, weren't working.
I'd just say that there's some dudes who like that, because the NBA, just in the past, if you go back and watch NBA games from 10 years ago, the game is different. Like, it's just wildly different. And there's some dudes, assuredly, that like were super hitting 10 years ago, and it's not that they've still got the longevity, they still got all that, but this is not the same game that they were playing, and it passes you by. You see it with like old coaches all the time that try to come back, and you're like, well, they were, they went undefeated and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but this The NFL's not the same. They're coaching this way, and like that ain't how it works.
Well, dude, the wild thing about Chris Paul is that he's hung around long enough. He's like somebody who just kept wearing bell bottoms till they came back in style.
Right.
Because the mid-range game that he does is now kind of in vogue because defenses have worked so hard at forcing people into shooting mid-range shots because the analytics say they're worthless. And they are if you can't hit them at a really efficient clip. But him and Booker can. So the Suns shoot more long twos than anybody in the league. I don't know if anybody gives a shit about this, but just to tag on to what you were just saying, he has done that game so well for so long that it's now actually really deadly because defenses don't know how to stop it because for the last 8 years, they have worked on stopping close range twos and threes almost exclusively. And
that's why
DeMar
everybody's like,
DeRozan is another guy who's been pretty good his whole career until the last 2 years where he's been great because defenses are letting him shoot a mid-range shot, which he has. Jimmy Butler's one of those dudes too.
I was about saying that's why now you got dudes that are just like, okay, well, I'll just pull up from half court. You're not going to defend that shit because, like, why would you even try?
Right.
So, like, if Phil Jackson came back and tried to coach in this league, like, it don't look like basketball that he's used to.
No, and shout out to Steph Curry, who I'm currently mad at for really changing
being
the
great.
whole thing. It's so great that you change how it's done. I mean, it's like LeBron didn't change the league because nobody could copy him.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody can do that. So whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure I've told y'all before, but I got a buddy that's a basketball coach, and like he was a coach before Steph Curry kind of came in and did his thing, and he's coaching now. And he just talks about how Steph Curry, to him as a coach, is the most frustrating human being that has ever lived because, like, he has to, on a daily basis, explain to his kids that they're not Steph Curry and that they should not try to be. But it's just like, like when Reggie Bush, I remember when we were in high school, when Reggie Bush came out, every single running back that we had that was normally like a north-south guy was like you handing the ball and they're just back there doing all this shit. And it's like, bro, you're not like that's a once-in-a-lifetime individual. You can't do that shit.
But I will say, I assume he's teaching around where you live, coaching around where you live. If those kids are 10 and they're pretty good and they have aspirations to go to college, not even be in the NBA, and they're like, going to top out at 6 foot, they probably should learn some tricks.
No, I agree. I agree.
It's not going to work any other way.
That's going to be, I mean, like now it's still like when you're watching basketball, it still is crazy when you see someone pull up in front of half court, but it's starting. We're more desensitized to it now because it happens all the time. Like it's just a thing that happens, and like 4 or 5 years down the line, that's not even going to look wild to us. It's just like that's what basketball looks like, and I don't know what the new iteration of things is going to be, but like no, it's a completely different game. And for the record, it's super fucking fun to watch. I'm not complaining. It is awesome.
I agree with all that.
Yeah, does hit. Well, hell, let's take it home.
All right. Thank you all for listening to the WellRED Show. We love to stick around longer, but we got to go. Tune in next week if you got nothing to do. Thank you. God bless you. Good night and ski.
Corey, do you like fancy shit?
Do you mean like endless shrimp at Red Lobster?
No, a little higher.
Do you mean like buying a dog as opposed to just finding one in a box at a Walmart parking lot?
Even fancier.
Do you mean like them real long-ass cigarettes?
Buddy, fancier still.
Do you mean like having an incestuous relationship with your cousin in order to purify the bloodline instead of just on account of she's got big-ass titties?
Yeah, like that shit.
Oh, I do like like that.
Well, if you like shit like that, you're going to love Puttin On Airs, our new podcast wherein two very not fancy dipshits discuss very fancy real shit.
You can find it wherever you find your podcast. Like, subscribe, tell all your friends, and leave us 5 stars.